Welcome to another LinkedIn Live session of LinkedIn Sites. I am thrilled as always to have people come and share a little bit about what they do and how they help people. And today we're very excited to have Elona here. And so, Elona, if you could introduce yourself and tell people what you do and who you are.
Thanks so much for inviting me to your beautiful live here. And I want to say hi to everybody in your audience. I'm Elona Lopari, and I help purpose driven entrepreneurs and CEOs build a legacy company that aligns their purpose with profit and does more good in the world.
So align their purpose with their profit. I love that, and it's a really powerful thing. I think that too many people are not doing in the world. What does you find is kind of the challenge that you're helping solve for people? So is it that they don't know what their purpose is, or they're not able to connect them? What's the kind of main solution that you're providing for them?
Yes, the clients that I help mostly and the people that I serve, they have a calling. They already understand what their purpose is, but they have a misalignment between the profit side, meaning the purpose, and the profit side. So I help them solve two main pain points in their companies, which is the inconsistent cash flow. And also the next problem is the scaling, right? They reach a certain level in their companies and they don't necessarily know how to move beyond that. The pillars that I operate under, or how I do that, is through helping them with connecting the dots between their branding, marketing, sales, systems, and team. The first three pieces are very important when you're solving the first problem, which is the inconsistent cash flow, because we have to have those bases and those foundations in place so that they can get consistent revenue coming in. And then once that is set, then we get to go to the next steps, which is usually the systems and the team part when they need to scale past a certain threshold or figure in their vision, mission, and purpose and profit alignment.
Well, it's definitely, I love that you use the phrase connect the dots, of course, because that's what I'm always trying to help people do. Um, and I think a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs and things, have that challenge of kind of putting it all together. Speaking of, is it startups, entrepreneurs? Who's kind of your ideal customer or your client?
Yes. So again, I can help anybody from the startup phase, but my sweet spot is anyone that is already at the upper six figure, all the way to eight figures for the entrepreneurial space, and then for the corporate space, companies that are within 5 to 10 million, which is usually where they need to bring in what I call myself a fractional COO to come in and help them, streamline and increase the operations, the efficiency of their operations, and then scale with more systems and team, whether it's their current market or new markets, based on the vision of the CEO. So that's kind of, a distinction between both markets, but my framework is really the same, and the work that I do is really the same. Because what makes me different is really the ability to connect those dots for people, meaning where are those gaps in their companies based on their growth phases and stages, and also based on their pain points that they are experiencing. But again, if I were to look at patterns, those are always the main two pain points for most companies.
Mm. Yeah, I think even companies who've been around a while still struggle, with those elements to get them from here to there. And I think it's sometimes that outside perspective that can be very useful for someone whose expertise is in um, taking those challenges and really understanding how to get beyond them. And so there are lots of ways to do that. Obviously, hiring someone like yourself, and then there's small ways that you can learn things from, whether it's a business book or a podcast. So I like both, and I'm curious if you have one, either a book or a podcast, you really think is worth the time to invest in it.
Yes, I am a lifelong learner. Even the name of my company is called the Life School, because I really believe that, obviously, we all know that entrepreneurship is, a school for personal development. So developing ourselves as leaders, as humans, absolutely will get you to increase your ROI in your business as well. So if I were to recommend a podcast, which is something that I enjoy, is the On Purpose by Jay Shetty. because it does bring on various guests from all different backgrounds. And I always enjoy the various experiences for people, because then I can connect my own dots based on what I'm hearing from their journeys. Depending on what I'm trying to figure out at the moment, whether it's a personal goal I'm trying to, improve, or a business goal. So that would be a podcast that I would suggest.
And then this one is always a little tricky, but can you think of a LinkedIn connection that you're glad you have, aside from myself, of course, but I'm going to connect.
Oh, wow. I have many, because I am very intentional about my relationship building reciprocity process, so to speak. I value relationships, and I'm very, relationship driven. So I guess if I were to just pick one out of all my connections, it would be one of my past clients, Yannick Said. She helps people actually discover their purpose in life, and she works with women, whether it's their personal or professional alignment. So that's who comes to mind just off the bat.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, obviously, we're connected to lots of people, and they're all amazing. So just, to give one just as a shout out, I always think is fun to do. Um, so I'm kind of obsessed with content and content creation, and everything related to content marketing, which is a big part of some of the stuff that you do. What is your kind of favorite type of content to consume from brands?
Mm. For me, it's the video, right? Because that's where I can get the closest to building all I can trust, understanding what somebody's about, receiving value from them. I mean, that's why putting myself as the consumer now, right, on the other side.
Mhm.
Um, People that I can relate to, that are likable, that are real, that are authentic. Um, that I really feel I can connect with their content, and it can add value to me based on what I might be looking for. But I would say video is the highest form of content that I get to see their personality, I get to feel their energy, I get to intuitively understand, where they're coming from. So that's what I would say, video.
Well, you won't hear many complaints from me if you're talking about video, because that's one of my favorite things to watch and create. And yeah, I think there is something about, you can see both, obviously the what they're saying, but how they're saying it, and the body language, and a lot of those other things that you get from having visual connections with them. Um, so you do a lot, and I see a lot of the content that you create. What is kind of your biggest challenge in creating that consistent and valuable content?
It's the scaling piece, staying true to my voice. I still post my own content, and I'm very intuitive about the process that I go under and the way that I structure it. um, it's a scaling piece. How do I stay authentic and true while it's still me, and then get my team to do a lot of behind the scenes, processes and procedures that can be repeated, where I don't necessarily have to be involved. So that's what I would say is my
Yeah,
challenge.
that's interesting. I think with a lot of businesses, that's, a small business has more ability in the beginning to control the brand, and then it's how do you scale that and maintain that, same brand value and experience. And I think of things like Apple stores. I've been to Apple stores in the US and in Europe, and different cities, and it's very hard for people to do as they grow, because you lose control. I was just listening to a podcast of the woman who started Aviator Nation, and she was saying she had, I think, 5 or 6 retail stores, and she ended up firing everyone because they weren't behaving in the way that was representing the brand, and she had to really go back and figure out, to make those controls. And I think it's definitely a challenge for people to make sure that you're consistent in your brand and in your content across the board as you grow. Uh, the other thing that I'm obsessed with, other than content, is AI. I'm diving pretty deep, falling down that rabbit hole. What's your kind of perspective in terms of where you are with AI? Are you using it? How's it helping?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
So another thought that came to me as you were talking about the bigger companies, Apple, and why
Hmm.
we have such a consistent experience, right? That we still experience, and the founders not all there in all the stores. I
Right.
think at that point you have to rely on your culture and your operations,
Hmm.
right? And that's the scaling piece, because if you have that consistency with your culture and operations, then of course, hopefully the experience should be the same for wherever your clients are finding you, whether it's the virtual space you're operating in
Hmm.
or a brick and mortar location. AI is definitely here, and I've always been a pioneer. I mean, I like changes. I like advancements. I like development. I understand, just like everybody, just kind of feeling it out and kind of seeing, how to start implementing it in my day to day, where I still kept the authentic voice of
Hmm.
my brand, and the human factor of the brand in it. I started experimenting with it with our teams, with our content, our emails, even my book writing and publishing processes. Um, what else? A lot of the processes that are more like, rinse and repeat, where you don't necessarily
Hmm.
to add a lot of creativity or authenticity behind them. Research purposes, I think it's great. I use it for research, because, it just gives you the information that you're looking for without you going to hunt, and go
Right.
and gather it everywhere. It connects a lot of those dots that we talked about at the beginning so much more easier. And I used it for that purpose when I was also writing my book, my latest one. But yeah, those are some of the main purposes. Obviously, right now, everybody's kind of implementing it, and there's only these new businesses, coming up. But sales process is great for that, because a lot of once you are intentional about rinse and repeat processes in your company, then there's nothing wrong with automating things that you're going to do, because you're going to scale, right? You're going to go to more people. So also the sales process automations are also AI is a great tool to implement for that as well.
Yeah, and I look at it that a lot of what you talk about, and I think where you help people is in terms of that system. Having a system in place that can be automated, that doesn't have to be you. And now, instead of it being maybe this person here, you're using a technology that's doing the same thing that someone is, repeatable, consistent, systematic. I think that's one of the promises of AI is that, and it's being seen all the time now, is it's enabling you to be that consistent as you get bigger, because you can have it on autopilot as you were co-pilot, depending on your brand of AI. Finally, I want to ask a kind of random question, but I produce animation, and so therefore I'm always kind of curious to hear, in the pantheon of animated characters, can you name a favorite animated character?
Mm. Um, I don't know if Wonder Woman is an animated character, but
Oh yeah, I watched it as a kid. The Super Friends. She was there for sure.
so she would be my favorite. Characters that it's art, right? It's creative. We all connect with different characters based on whether we feel like we can relate to them. So Wonder Woman for me has been one of those, I guess, because of the power that she embraces, the confidence, the self-esteem, all of that. So but I'm trying to think of another one that I like. Bob the Builder, I liked watching when I was growing up,
Hey,
because I guess the
that's.
building piece.
Mhm.
I'm also a builder. I like to build things, and now I know why I resonated with him.
You're like, why
But
are this
the
strange guy?
problem solver, the fixer, and I'm the
Hmm.
entrepreneur today. So, and I also was the problem solver very early on for my family based on my personal story and stuff. So, yeah, there you go. Like stuff that I
I
mean, it
love
gives
that. I love the complexity of the dichotomy between Wonder Woman and Bob the Builder. I think they should try and find a way to intersect those two into a special. It'd be a really interesting episode, I think. Well, Alana, thank you so much for your time, your insights. and it's been a real pleasure. And I'm really glad that we are connected, and looking forward to future conversations. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeffrey. What a fun conversation. Looking forward to sharing it and hope that we can connect with more of our audiences because I think that's really the name of the game. We can collaborate only through just creating spaces for conversations. So I appreciate the space that you just created today.
I love it. Thanks so much.